And welcome, everybody, once again to the Not a Rabbi podcast. This is the podcast where we like to talk about some Jewish topics at a high 30,000 foot level for everyone to get a better understanding of it, ask questions, and have a good discussion all around. We talk about some of the news articles that happen that are somewhat Jewish related. And I would like to have a good time here. I would like to thank my friends at the Fifth Column podcast, I guess, server, the Discord server. There we go. The Fifth Column Discord server. Would like to thank the moderators there for allowing me to continuously do this thing that I do on their server. We definitely do appreciate it. By we, it is a royal we, because I'm the only one that does this. So, interesting thing that I wanted to just mention here is that today, which is the 26th of September that I'm recording on, I was going to record in my sukkah. It is the holiday of Sukkot, so I was going to record there. However, the remote mic that I have for that was a little bit too low, I think, and also there was a lot of wind going on, so even though there are some walls that are put up, you just heard a lot of wind, and I didn't think that it would be a very good recording situation, so I do apologize for that. I thought it would be rather meta to do that, have a Jewish podcast in the sukkah. I thought it would have been pretty fitting as well. However, I was not able to do that today, so my apologies to the millions and millions of you that are in the live chat right now. Hopefully everyone is doing well. And quick, also, I like to lead with my mistakes as possible, if possible, and wanted to apologize for really a lot of static that there was on the line on the record of last episode. Not sure exactly what happened. I used the same setup time after time. And for some reason, it happened. A little bit of housekeeping there. I do apologize. Well, maybe next year. Yes, one of the commenters in the live chat say maybe we could do it next year. Next year, I could still do another episode tomorrow. You never know, and I could do it outside. It could be nice. It's supposed to be nice tomorrow. I'll check what the weather has to say later. Don't want to get really too bogged down on that. In any event, have some interesting news articles here to talk about. Then I want to get into the main topic of discussion, which is a question that a listener did send me and asked me about. So I wanted to answer that question. Let's get to the news articles here. First news article that we're going to post, that I will post into the chat, I should say. And there is a slight pun that's not intended, but I'm going to use it anyway. This news article is from the New York Post, which has still to this date the best headlines ever. And in any event, the article is more of an opinion piece written by the Archbishop of New York. I believe that's his official title. Let me just double check. Yes, he is the Archbishop of New York, Timothy Cardinal Dolan. As New York's Archbishop, he relishes the Jewish high holy days. And the article goes through a little bit about some of the things that he feels are interesting with regard to the mostly the days of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and also also Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement. A couple of interesting things here he says, and I'll just touch base on them quickly. He wants to know, he talks about how Rosh Hashanah is a day of renewal, and in a lot of ways he is correct in that, where it is a day of renewal. And because what we're doing is we are praying and asking for God to give us life for this year, continuously write us for this year, write us in the book of life, have us written in the book of life. Right now, on Yom Kippur, we actually ask for it to be sealed in the book of life. and all the other good books, such as the book of forgiveness, such as the book of sustenance, of having a living where you can support people and support your family. So that is a very very important thing. And one of the things is interesting, he says, is with all of the stuff that is going on in the world these days, do not need to really, I think, touch on all of those types of things. If you take a look and open the paper, you'll see what we have. And he asks, shall we cower and cover up in bed each morning, or take a deep breath, thank the Lord for being with us, make an act of trust, and start afresh? Rosh Hashanah chooses option 2. So that is one thing that was interesting, I thought. Then he talks about the Day of Atonement. And as an abandoned beggar, Mother Teresa was asked what she would most like to change in the world. She replied herself. Now there is an interesting corollary to that, which is people have attributed a statement, and I really should have found the statement, but I did not, I forgot to, how basically a person wanted to go ahead and change the world. Then he decided to change the community. Then they decided to change, first I think it was the world, then his country, then his state, and then his city, and it kept going, and he realized that really any change that has to happen is change that you start from within, from yourself first. And once you make those changes that you want to see, you can go ahead and radiate those changes out. And once people see that as an example, they're able to then do that. It's an issue of leading by example, which is it's been attributed to many people. Maybe some of you in the live chat who are more intelligent than I, meaning everybody, will find that and post that into the chat. And here's what I really found interesting about what Cardinal Dolan said, where he says, once again, I sure find that sentiment refreshing. He is talking about wanting to repent and return to God's law and covenant. He says that when's the last time we've heard someone caught in a bad mistake or crime simply whisper, I'm sorry, I did it, I'm at fault, I need forgiveness of God, the people that I've hurt, and myself. And this is true. And again, this really cuts to the essence of what Yom Kippur is about, where we continuously are asking God for forgiveness for the sins that we have committed. There are two types of, commandments that we have. We have the commandments that are between ourselves and God, and things along those lines. That's all within the realm of being between man and God. Now, however, there are other commandments where they are between man and man. And one of the things that we say at the beginning of Yom Kippur, right at the beginning, is that we say, and the Talmud says this as well, that you cannot be forgiven for sins between man and man unless the other person goes ahead and forgives you for that. And you actually go ahead and forgive everybody for anything that they've done wrong to you. And it's spelled out in a specific prayer right at the beginning of Yom Kippur. So it's a very interesting article. And then he says, thank you, older brothers and sisters in faith, as Pope Francis calls Jewish people. And he goes into it. So it was a nice little article, nice little appetizer, I guess, for what for going into the holidays, because this is obviously published before the beginning of the Jewish New Year, before Rosh Hashanah. It was published on September 5th, and being that this is September 26th, as always, I am behind the times. Any thoughts, comments from the live chat regarding this article? All right, so let's go to the next article. This is part one of two of articles that I'm going to be talking about. I really debated whether or not to talk about this specific event slash thing, I guess you'll say. And that is here, as you see, it's from America's Truth Detector, news.yahoo.com. And the title is Netflix, My Unorthodox Life Spurred Ultra-Orthodox Jewish Women to Publicly Talk About Their Lives. Now, this was published on September 7th. It is actually from a website called The Conversation, which I've never heard of before. This is written by a Georgetown University assistant professor of Jewish civilization, and this talks about a reality show, which I know everybody loves in the chat. I know everybody loves reality shows as much as I do, and it is about a reality show that came out, I think, in the middle of the summer, called My Unorthodox Life. My Unorthodox Life is about an individual who is an American fashion designer and entrepreneur, and this individual decided to leave the Jewish religion, pretty much, and try to force her children to become non-religious as well. And I'm not mentioning names here specifically because there are problems and have been found to be serious holes in the individual's story that she tells about how actually religious they were, and how ultra-Orthodox they were, because they claim that they were ultra-Orthodox, and then they go ahead and it turns out not to be the case, and the like. And I'm not a big fan of this. I'm not a big fan of this type of issue. Listen, they are allowed to leave religion. I'm not going to knock them for that. What they wanted to do, they wanted to do, and you cannot really. I don't really judge in those types of things. However, what this did was they created a hashtag called, some Orthodox women created a hashtag on Twitter, Instagram and Twitter, I think it was, called My Orthodox Life. And that is something that they go ahead and they talk about how their lives are actually very fulfilling and the things like that. And it diminishes women for being very, Orthodox women, I should say, for being very fulfilled and doing a lot of different things. For example, as I believe I had mentioned earlier, there is an Orthodox woman who is running a huge government intelligence organization. It was a cybercrime or something like that. She is running that. There are others out there, and there's one that here in Brooklyn who is a civil court judge, who is actually extremely ultra Orthodox. Orthodox women are out there in the world, not just sitting at home. And so, therefore, it's an interesting article. Here I'll just read one of these posts. I am Orthodox, and I am fulfilled. I am Orthodox, and I achieve A-level results that ranked in the top 5% of the country. I am Orthodox, and I studied my undergraduate degree in one of the best universities in the UK. That is pretty much, how that is, and that's just an example of that. And like I said, she had, I'm going to stop there with that individual. and this specific movement because, like I said, I don't believe it. I think that a lot of them we will, there are challenges. I'm not going to say that there aren't. There are some very disappointing challenges, I find, as somebody, who is a husband and who is a father of a daughter. I find that some of the, challenges are stupid, for lack of a better term. But we have to fight, and we have to not fight is a bad word probably, but we have to continue and go ahead and try and move slowly these ideals, and we have to get them better. And there's a lot that I disagree with in terms of the in terms of how some Orthodox areas handle feminine issues. And like I said, I'm trying. We all try to change those as we see fit. Okay. Any questions about that article? So the question is, I am not ultra Orthodox. Now, let me say with a disclaimer here that I think I'm not a fan of any of these labels. I prefer the label of Jewish, and that is it. If I would probably be, more of the quote unquote modern Orthodox. If anything, like I said, though, I hate all of these labels and I detest them greatly because I think that they just create too many stereotypes, and the stereotypes are not good for anybody. And as I like to say, all generalizations are false. So anyhow, it's it just when you get down into these really, I don't like using Orthodox, conservative, Reform, and whatever other denominations there may or may not be either. I prefer to call them Jewish, but that is just one man's opinion, and of course this man is not a rabbi, so who knows. But that's how I feel about that. What kind of clothing that these women wear? I'm assuming which women are you talking about here? The women in the that are posting these things, or the ultra Orthodox? Which ones are you talking about? The women who are leaving the ultra Orthodox, they'll wear, the women who are leaving ultra Orthodox, when they leave ultra Orthodox, they are going to wear whatever they feel like. it's that simple. The ultra Orthodox women will generally be dressed more modestly. I would say some of their clothing. I'm not an expert on women's clothing, so I'm not going to comment on that. But they dress as they dress. I mean, it's a lot more unassuming and a lot more modest. Generally with a dress or a skirt that has the at least the elbows covered, if not anything longer, and the knees covered again, if not a lot longer. And it depends. I mean, I am friends with people, friendly with people, who dress in all manners that are Orthodox. So I don't want to really go out and say one way or another. Are women able to wear pants? Yes and no. And that's more of a technical issue here, where women, when I say technical, I mean there is a commandment in the Bible where it's in Deuteronomy. I forget exactly the chapter and verse. You'll have to forgive me. I'll try to look it up later. Where there is a commandment for women not wearing men's clothing and men not wearing women's clothing. And the question is about pants. In some communities, some of the more modern Orthodox communities, women do wear pants. In the more, to the right religiously, women do not wear pants. So there you have it. And what's interesting is, and this is actually something I'm going to get to later in a different topic, but Orthodox Judaism specifically, and that's really where I come from, is not a top-down religion where we have one person who makes the rules, and it's a centralized, decentralized religion, for lack of a better term. And if that doesn't bring clarity, I don't know what will. So you could have different halachic deciders go ahead, and deciders of Jewish law go ahead and make rulings for A and for B, and it really, different people who are great, who would be a great person, would go ahead and make one rule and say this is the law, and then and another person who is another very big Torah scholar could go ahead and say I see the law as X, and they can both be right. Correct. It doesn't have denominations as like Protestants have Wesleyan or Pentecostal. That is correct. I mean, there are denominations to it. Like I said, the big three denominations are Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform. People want to go ahead and break that up into subdivisions. Too much of a headache. I don't like these types of things. To me, it's a matter of semantics, and as always, I am anti-semantic. So, do the synagogue communities hold labels generally? Yes. Or is your view on not using them widely held? No, it is not widely held at all. Friends of mine, believe this is, are like this as well. How much partisanship is there around them? How much partisanship is there around them? That's an interesting question. There can be some partisanship around them. I would say that, there is, when you look at, let's say, an Orthodox divide, Orthodox v. Conservative or Reform, there's more partisanship than there would be as opposed to someone like myself and ultra-Orthodox. Let's put it that way. Hopefully that answers the question. Any more questions? I see one more comment coming in. I really appreciate these comments, guys and gals. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you very much for making this conversation awesome. I really enjoy it. This is what I enjoy about doing the live recording. Okay, so let's go on to the next part B, I guess you could say, of this topic. And this is written by an individual by the name of Dr. Erica Brown. She is a writer. She's an author. I have multiple books that she has written. I find her to be pretty insightful and very, very bright. Her husband is an emergency room doctor, Dr. Jeremy Brown, who has his own website that deals with things that are in the Talmud and goes through some of the issues there. It's Talmudology is what it's called. I'll just do a quick search on that. Talmudology.com, science, medicine, and the Talmud. Basically, what Dr. Brown is saying, and is basically the fact that when you're going ahead and taking a look at somebody, like some of these individuals who earlier were part of this hashtag My Orthodox Life, they're going ahead and, it doesn't make an interesting life, maybe. I would disagree. I think that it could make an interesting life, and I think that I would love to see something about that. In fact, I think I've mentioned it earlier in an earlier podcast. Ruchi Fryer, who created a organization called Ezras Nashim, which is an emergency response, easy for me to say, an emergency response service for Orthodox women, and it's only staffed by women because some women's issues need to be, the people would rather be seen by only women. They did a documentary on it called 93 Queen. I will try to look that up and try to get a link to at least something about it. I know it was on PBS. I don't know if it's still on their website or if it's on their website at all. We would have to see. Anyhow, and that's basically what she is going ahead and talking about, is that, there is not a issue. It would be very boring to go ahead and, have a reality series on somebody that is what I like, the term I prefer for myself is a centrist Orthodox Jew. But again, I do hate all sorts of labels. Anyway, interesting article. It goes into some of the liturgy that we had leading up to Rosh Hashanah and through Yom Kippur. Some of it we say still, and I'll just pull out a line from the article here. To this point, reality TV this past year and a host of other programs and articles depict an orthodoxy that is narrow and limiting, as if to put its adherents on notice. Here's another article, and this is an article that I am, as always, geek out about, which is a First Temple cheating weight has been discovered. And this is how Jerusalem merchants manipulated weights to defraud customers. This is not anything new. Defrauding customers, as you see, it's not anything new. It has been happening for years. In fact, the Bible does talk about it, and it is, it tells you to go ahead and make sure that your scales and weights are even and correct. And this is something that was found, and again, not surprising that people will always try and find a way to cheat. It's really almost like it's human nature, unfortunately, because it most likely is. Any comments on that? It wasn't the most exciting thing, I know, but hey, what can I say? How did they manipulate the weight? Just to read a part of the article here, the 2,700-year-old stone weight bears two parallel lines, which according to a team from Hebrew University were used to mark the stone as weighing 2 gera, which is a little bit less than 1 gram. In actuality, however, the stone weighs 3.61 grams, nearly 4 times the marked amount. So basically they said, hey, here's this stone, boom, go ahead, as somebody posted exactly that into the chat as well. It went ahead and did that. So I guess it was able to fool people somehow. I don't know. Contrary to popular belief, I was not around 2,700 years ago. You may have to ask the 2,000-year-old man what happened back then, because I am not sure. And the fact that the 2,000-year-old man is actually still living, this is true. However, the person that interviews him is not. Get the 2,000-year-old man on the show. If you want to talk about people that are really too big for this, the 2,000-year-old man is definitely one of them. For those of you who don't know, the 2,000-year-old man was a bit that Mel Brooks did with Carl Reiner, and it is pretty darn funny. Go ahead, check it up on YouTube. You'll enjoy it. It's fun stuff. It is very, very funny. I wish one of our regular listeners was on the live chat today, because this is in his region of the world. And the next article, which is remains of an ancient mikveh found in Guerrero, Mexico. And basically, they found a ritual bath, which these types of ritual baths themselves are still in use today. It is primarily used by women. I won't go more into it at that on air, but it's one of the things that they actually say in the article, that it is one of the first things that need to be constructed when a Jewish community is founded, and this is 100% correct. This is something that needs to be done. And what is interesting about this is the discovery of the mikvah, or ritual bath, contrasts with previous archaeological data surrounding the mining city of Taxo, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. Since Judaism was believed to have been a persecuted religious practice during the colonial period, it suggests that there was a significant Jewish community in early colonial Mexico. And this is actually, both parts are correct. That, as I had mentioned, I believe in the last episode, where the Inquisition followed to the New World from Spain and from Portugal and any of those countries, and it followed into the New World, and Judaism was a persecuted religion. However, there were a lot of Jews in the area, and they tried to protect themselves, and maybe, the individual or the town there was friendly, and they did not go ahead and get into ask for the Inquisition to come to their town. And speaking of the Inquisition and Mel Brooks, we'll just tie this together. History of the World Part 1, his whole bit with the Spanish Inquisition. So I'll just leave it at that. Again, take a look at YouTube for History of the World Part 1, Spanish Inquisition. You can see it. Features Mel Brooks. It features Jackie Mason, I believe, who just recently passed away. And it also features nuns in bathing suits. All right, question that I got from a listener was, I just heard something and I have to confirm with you. Is the water in New York not kosher? Someone just said there are tiny crustaceans that live in the pipes. And the answer to this question is twofold. One is, yes, there are crustaceans in New York's water. New York is one of the few cities that, for some reason, do not have to filter their water. And so, therefore, there are crustaceans hanging around. These are called copepods. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. These articles actually date back from the New York Times and from Time Magazine. They are from 2004 and 2010, respectively. And basically the long and short of it is, as I told my friend and / listener of the podcast, who, by the way, is on his honeymoon. So congratulations to you. You know who you are. Enjoy. And my wedding check is in the mail. You know what I mean. Okay. So anyhow, this is true. There are things in it. There are crustaceans in it. And basically, according to the New York Times, New York is one of the 3 cities which is exempt, or few cities that is exempt from federal filtering requirements. Boston and Seattle are also exempt. They do not have the city's number of Orthodox Jews, of course. I think New York is the biggest Orthodox Jewish population there. Anyway, there was a lot of people do now filter their water multiple ways in order to drink the water. There are really different, as I had mentioned before, there are differing opinions on this topic, as well as many other topics out there in the world of Judaism, and people will have different beliefs on it. Personally, we do filter our water in one of 2 ways. We have a one of those fancy schmancy refrigerators with the water that goes in, so that gets filtered. So if we ever want a drink of water, we just use that. So that's automatically filtered. Additionally, if we are not on the Sabbath, when it's the Sabbath or a holiday, we use a Brita water filter. So again, the water gets filtered, and there we go. But generally, I'm not very strict on this. So if somebody has non-filtered water around and I will drink it right out of the tap. As the Orthodox Union says, and this was the other thing that I wanted to bring up, is the Orthodox Union's statement on this, which is from October 12th, 2004, speaking of very old articles. And they're just bringing this guidance. What they say is very interesting. While we share this with the public, and this is basically, let me start from here. The Orthodox Union says, this is a statement of Orthodox Union policy for restaurants and caterers under its supervision during this interim period while research into New York City tap water is still ongoing. I'm sure they have a further clarification on this. But while we share this with the public, we recommend that you speak to your Orthodox rabbi for his guidance in this, as in all halachic matters. Then they go ahead and say, a little bit later on, some rabbinic decisors believe that these certain considerations might apply in our case and rule leniently. Others feel that the prevalence, nature of the water source, yada, 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 do not allow for a lenient decision. So here we go once again, where we have multiple different ideas on how to go ahead and proceed. And so anyway, there is something in the water. That is, that's that's the bottom line with it. There is something in the water. Any questions from the chat? Is there a lot of anti-fluoride conspiracy stuff in parts of the community? I don't think anti-fluoride is one of the bigger conspiracies that people worry about. There are some conspiracy nuts out there, but I've not ever heard about anybody talking about the fluoride conspiracy. I have heard about, surprisingly, vaccination conspiracies. There are a lot of conspiracies. People do go ahead and buy into the conspiracies. Unfortunately, I know of many people who believe that the events that took place on January 6th were more important than, the founding of the Constitution. It saddens me. These are friends of mine. I generally try to avoid the topic with them because I'd prefer them to be my friends. But be that as it may, as we like to say. All right, any more comments? Okay, so it doesn't look like there are any more comments, which means there'll be a flurry of comments as soon as I say that. But that concludes today's episode, which is Season 3, Episode 6. I got that right. And I would like to thank all of you for listening to the podcast. Please do not forget to subscribe, to leave a review wherever you feel fit. If you do want to contact me, feel free to use the contact form on notarabbi.pod.com. I will definitely be getting those. And I will happily answer your questions that you ask. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. I am Aaron Benedict, and I am not a rabbi.